Hello to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. It's a wet old day today. It's Monday late in the day. It's been raining for most of the afternoon. So instead of getting out and about and going for a bit of a walk and talk like I normally do and showing off the beautiful aspects of Sydney, I'm going to do today's 5am Club from the comfort of my vehicle. I'm just sitting in the car here, out of the house, otherwise Paula will throw something at me. There's a number of things that I can get away with, but 5am clubs in the house while Paula's watching television is a no-go zone, if you know what I mean. Anyway, what I want to do today is I want to continue along a path that I started a couple of days ago. There's a book summary that I read entitled Factfullness by Hans Rosling. And in that book summary, the author brought to our attention that there are about 10 instincts. 10 instincts that we humans have, which tend to distort our perspectives of the world and prevent us from seeing the world the way it is. So these distortions, the author suggests, whilst once were very, very powerful and useful for us when we were young kids, for example, or 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, they may have been really useful to keep us alive and safe. In today's world, where we're living in the safest and healthiest and most progressive times that the world has ever seen, with free information, global collaboration available to each and every one of us, at least those who have got access to the internet, which is quite a few people, that we need to question a lot of those distortions, or at least be aware of them, so that they don't overwhelm us or distract us or cause us analysis paralysis. So in a previous 5am club, what I did was I went through each of those 10 distortions and listed them so we knew what they were, and gave a brief description on each one of them. And what I promised back then was that we were going to go through each of these distortions, each of these instincts, so to speak, and do a deeper dive, so we can assess them a little bit more and see where they lead us. So I've been through a few. The first one was the gap instinct. Then I talked about the size instinct, and I think that's basically it. I've been through a couple so far. And the other one was the generalization instinct. So I've been through 3 of them. So the fourth one that I'm going to focus on today is called the negativity instinct. And what you'll realize, or what you'll understand, is that we're surrounded by a lot of negativity. And you ask yourself, why? Why is there so much negativity in the world? But what the author here, Hans Rosling, tells us is that we're wired to be negative. We're wired to be on the lookout for danger all the time, because historically, you'd be walking along and there'd be a lion in the bush, and you needed to be, aware and alert for all of these dangers in order to do a fight or flight response or reaction. But as I mentioned before, we're living in a world now where it's never been safer, it's never been healthier, and there's never been greater opportunity for each and every one of us to grow, develop, to educate ourselves, to connect with a limited number of people. Just this morning I posted on Facebook that I've got a friend on Facebook who's got 4,950 friends, 4,950 connections on Facebook, which absolutely blew my mind because, Con is a lovely guy. He's just like, the boy next door, the guy next door. He's not a celebrity in any way, shape or form, but he has so much connectivity from a social media perspective that it's mind-blowing. I've got 500 friends and I'm reducing it. I'm down to about 480 now, and I was up as high as 530, 540. But I'm trying to trim my connections because the reasoning is, if I don't know a person, if I see them socially and don't know who they are, then it's a bit awkward being a friend on Facebook and not being able to recognise a person in a social environment. But if I meet somebody socially and we engage and we talk and we break bread and have a drink and have a bit of a chat and a laugh, then I'm more than welcome. Social media connections, but that's just me. If I don't know somebody, then it's a little bit hard for me to feel comfortable connecting with people that I don't know. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent, so let's just get back on topic. So the negativity instinct suggests that we are wired to see the negative more than the good. And I remember years ago, Anthony Robbins said that people will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. And I've since learned that the way the brain is structured, there's a component in the brain, or a part of the brain, called the amygdala. And for those who are Greek, you will understand that the word amygdalo, means almond. So it's an almond-shaped part of the brain, and that part of the brain is the part of the brain which is alert to dangers. And once the amygdala is stimulated and activated, then what it does is it floods your body with an adrenaline and cortisone, so that you're on edge, you're ready to either deliver a fight or a flight response. So fight or run away response. But and as I said, that was really, really good. 300,000 years or 2,000 years ago, when we were hunters and gatherers, and we were fighting, hand-to-hand combat. But in today's world, the amygdala is always activated for some reason in most people, and I'm the same. As somebody said, there are about 60,000 thoughts that go through our brains, our minds every single day, of which about 70 to 75% of them are negative. And a lot of that is happening both consciously, listen to this one here, consciously, but also subconsciously. So we don't even know. You're not even aware of the stuff that's happening at your subconscious level. But depending on what's happening at the conscious level, from what I understand, will determine what's happening at the subconscious level. So if you can control your conscious level, then you've got a greater chance of getting your subconscious under control. So we've established that we're wired to see the negative, and that has happened for a good reason, to keep us alive and to allow us to survive. But we've also established that is no longer an important part of our life, because we've never been healthier or safer in the history of mankind. And we've also established that the majority of our thoughts are still negative, even though we've got less to worry about, and yet we create more things to worry about, which has led to an emotional crisis. Everybody's on edge, everybody's stressed, everybody's lonely, everybody's feels disconnected. So it's a global sort of thing. So even though we're in a room full of people, even though we're surrounded by thousands of friends on Facebook, we are connected and disconnected at the same time. So the author then talks about how we need to bring this negativity into perspective and to try and help sort it out. And the author says that when you hear something bad we need to ask ourselves, and we're hearing bad stuff all the time. We've got certain friends who are always mouthing, echoing, and suggesting negativities. Okay, so we've got negative friends telling us the bad news over and over again. We've got parents, we've got partners, we've got children, we've got work peers, we've got so many people in our lives, and some of those people are always on the channel of negativity. Bang, bang, bang. Just sowing seeds of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt throughout the day. Every time we engage them, it's the same old story. So it's negativity. But you need to ask yourself. The same thing happens with the media. You need to ask yourself, if the things that they're talking about, if there was an improvement in a situation, would they tell you about that? We hear about the share market. I'm a stock share market trader. I've got a broker who we trade the market with all the time. And we see the market going up, down, and it's like this all the time. But when the market drops dramatically, the number of people who will tell me that the market is crashing or is lost billions of dollars is just remarkable. But when the market's going up, when trillions of dollars are being created in wealth, nobody rings up to say, all this good stuff is happening. It's only when it's negative that people will tell you. So, and that's what the basis of news is. News is based on negativity. News is negative. We never hear of improvements. Nobody's ever going to tell you about the improvement. Like we've had droughts, we had bushfires, and since then it's rained again, and Australia's never been greener, so to speak. But nobody will tell you about that. It's just the way things are. So we just need to understand and find the balance and understand that we need to have a perspective that people are going to be telling us bad news all the time, but behind that bad news, there's also good news happening all the time, which is not getting communicated. So just because bad things are communicated all the time doesn't mean that the situation gets worse. It just means that it's bad news, and just one instance of bad news is the bad news. You don't need more and more. I just had the neighbour coming across here. I think he saw me in the car here chatting away, and maybe the lights are on, so he thought to come over to tell me something. So let me get my thoughts straight again. So what we're saying is that, hence, if everything that reaches us is negative, it's not that it's all bad. It's just that the channels that we're tuned into are negative. So we need to understand that we need to expect bad news. Let me just pull out the thing. So let me just continue here. So we've got to learn to expect bad news and learn not to expect good news. And once you get that into perspective, once you understand that, then life's a little bit easier. And you also need to understand, and the author made this point, which I loved, that things can be both better and bad at the same time. But what we need to do is we need to look for a trend. We need to look for a trend, and it's the trend that you need to look for. And we also do this within the share market. The trend is either down or it's up. But even with bad news, if the trend is going up, then you just look for the trend and you stick with the trend, because that's where the value is. So understand that things can be both bad and getting better. The author also talks about the fact that good news is never reported. We need to understand that. The people who are telling you the bad news all the time are never going to tell you good news. They're always going to be the bearers of bad news. And I remember many years ago, a friend of mine, Andrew Smyrnis, once told me that, because I think I mentioned a couple of bad news events to him, and he told me, Jim, you need to be careful, mate. You know, you don't want to be identified and known as a bearer of bad news. So that happened back in 1977, 1978, I think it was, 78, 79. So since then, I was on the alert not to be the bearer of bad news. So, so we need to understand that things go in waves. So, and the property market goes in waves, the share market goes in waves, relationships, marriage goes in waves. We have good days, we have bad days, but we continue to grow, develop as a couple. The markets continue to grow and consolidate. Housing prices continue to maintain their level and grow and develop and increase. So you need to understand that there are waves, but as long as the wave is trending upward, that's what you're looking for. So don't be worried about bad news. But and as the author here says, and I mentioned this before, but let me just reiterate it, that when we had the bushfires last year, when we got COVID-19, more bad news doesn't make it worse. All it is just making us aware and creating more anxiety. The news is the same. If you say it once, or if you say it 1,000 times, it's the same news item. But if you say it 1,000 times, for many people, they feel as if they are as if the news is much worse than what it actually is. So just be careful that just because 10 of your friends on Facebook or 100 people on a particular group on Facebook say something against vaccines, for example, doesn't mean they're right. Just because 100 people or 1,000 people say what they say, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it more right because more people say it. You know, because at the end of the day, everybody's entitled to an opinion, but there are featherweight opinions and there are heavyweight opinions. So just remember to use and as a reference point, people with heavyweight opinions, if you can. And the other thing the author said here, which I absolutely loved, is that the reason why we've got so much bad news being reported in the world is not because things are worse. It's just that we've got better surveillance of suffering, but it's not a worsening world. It's just that now with Facebook, with Instagram, with so many news channels, so many reporters, so many quasi and pseudo reporters, everybody now is a news reporter. Everybody thinks that they're an expert now on 5G, on vaccines, on COVID-19, on you name it. You know, whatever conspiracy theory you want to come up with, everybody knows a person who's an expert on it. And you can comb the internet and you'll get articles on every possible view. You'll get articles to support whatever you want to believe, whatever confirmation bias you have, you will get it confirmed on the internet because there are so many sources. There are so many people across a spectrum of views that your appetite for conspiracy, your appetite for a particular piece of information will get rewarded on the internet. So just be careful what source of information you go by. The other thing that the author said here, which I hadn't quite considered before, but I really like their perspective, he says that beware of rosy pasts. People, humans, we always seem to glorify our pasts and our early experiences. And that's another tendency that humans have. So we tend to glorify the past and be negative about the present. When if you really, really are honest with yourself and you look at your past and you look back, then it's not as rosy as what you make it out to be. But that's something for all of us to dwell on and to have a think about. Because all histories are glorified, they're embellished. People always try and embellish their past and their histories. So that's basically it. So the negativity instinct, and they say that the worst disease that we have in the world, the worst infection that you can contract, the most contagious infection known to man, is negativity. Because negativity feeds upon itself, and because most people are wired to be negative in the first place, because of our biology, because of our connections, because of our wiring, as we said before, our software is designed for us to be negative. Then if you get two or more people coming together, connecting either socially or on social media who are negative, or if you're part of a group that has some negative people within the group who are very, very vocal in their postings and active in their postings, then that can contagiously move on like wildfire. So be very, very careful that you're not manipulated and coerced into thinking certain ways because of the people that you're hanging out with are negative, or the people you spend a lot of time with on social media are negative. So that's basically it for me on that topic. So thank you very much for joining me on Jim's 5am Club. I'll finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, and most importantly, let's try and A, be aware that we're wired to be negative, and B, to understand the destructive power that negativity has not only on ourselves, both consciously and subconsciously, because it's working at both levels, but it also is very, very infectious, and you can create contagion amongst your family, your children, your grandchildren, your parents, your grandparents, your cousins, your nephews, you name it, your work friends, whoever you touch on a daily basis. You can either infect negatively, or but it's very, very hard to infect people in a positive way. One thing I've learnt over the years is that it's much easier, not that I've been a drug dealer, but I've just seen you're much more popular being a drug dealer, being a criminal, being a pimp, being somebody who's got an undesirable sort of background. But if you're positive, if you're somebody who wants to help uplift and embolden and empower people around you, people will look at you. It's so funny. People will look at you and view you with suspicion. It's funny. It's I can't explain it. But if you want to destroy somebody, if you want to do something to impact somebody in a negative way, then they're less suspicious for some reason. So I think that's about it. So thanks very much for joining me in the car here, doing my 5am club. And as I said, this is where my 5am club commenced back in May during the lockdown. I was inspired to commence my Jim's 5am club during the lockdowns back in May. And I remember around about the 14th, 15th of May is when I started thinking about doing more and more of this stuff, and it's evolved and it's grown from that point. So thank you very much for those who have joined me and early on and have supported me along the way. I really appreciate it. At the moment, I'm completely focused on content. I'm out to create as much content as possible, because I know the more I do, the more that I'm going to improve, and the more I'm capable of doing going into the future. So once again, thank you very much for any of your positive feedback. I really appreciate it. But I need to tell you that I don't get very much feedback, but I do get occasional feedback. So the occasional feedback, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and it means a lot. But as I say, I don't do it for the likes. I don't do it to sell anything. I don't do it to have an agenda behind it. What I do it for is just to pass on the wisdom, the knowledge, the learnings that I've been able to accumulate over a lifetime, and to just take the book summaries that I read on a regular basis and be an emissary, just be a messenger, just to take the things that I found interesting, because if I find it interesting, then chances are other people may find it interesting as well. And I thought that it'd be useful just to live, learn, and pass it on. And I encourage you to live, learn, and pass things on that you know to the people around you. So thank you very much. If you're lucky, Yasas from Jim's 5 a.m. Club. And until we chat again, stay well. And it's going to be a wet old week. Summer in Sydney, summer in Australia. It's either drought, or flood. It's but it's usually overcast, and it's usually wet. You know, I long for the summers in Greece where you get 92 days of sunny days. So I can't wait to this COVID-19 to come under control, so we can get up and about and start travelling again. Anyway, enough said. I've been talking for far too long. Bye for now, and chat to you again soon. Bye.